Ageism, discrimination and stereotyping on the basis of age. We experience it anytime someone assumes we're too old for something, instead of finding out who we are and what we're capable of, or too young. Ageism cuts both ways.
Today, I am going to be responding to a video uploaded by the Damage Report titled Republican Confesses to Impregnating 14-Year-Old Girl. The video stars TYT's John Iadarola, hopefully I'm not butchering the last name, and Viviana Vigil, who discuss an admission from Republican State Senator Anthony Bouchard when he realized people were looking into a controversy from his past.
My garbage person of the week is U.S. House candidate Anthony Bouchard. Now, I don't have a working printer, so I can't throw him in the trash, but you just have to imagine him going in here. And it's a really weird case, so hold on to your butts. This is gonna get weird. He apparently had a relationship with and impregnated a 14-year-old girl back when he was 18. He told the Star Tribune late yesterday, hours after he disclosed the relationship in a Facebook Live video to his supporters. So having a normal one there. Now he says that he went public with the information to get ahead of the story after learning that people were investigating it in opposition to his candidacy. So maybe just on face alone, on the nature of the story alone, you understand why I'm choosing him, but there's a couple other wrinkles. So one is a particular statement he put out about what happened. Look at the way he chose to frame it. So bottom line, it's a story when I was young, 2 teenagers, girl gets pregnant. You've heard those stories before. She was a little younger than me. So it's like the Romeo and Juliet story. Ew.
Like they killed themselves. They killed themselves.
That's true, and it gets dark in that area actually. But no, it's not. First of all, it shouldn't be the Romeo and Juliet story. Secondly, I don't think you've read Romeo and Juliet because there's some other aspects of that story that you're missing. Third of all, do not try to distract from what you apparently worry is gonna be a big scandal because you're trying to get in front of it by implying that it's just Shakespearean. That's my life. I'm like something the bard would write on. That's weird.
He spoke about it with fondness. 2 teenagers in love, she was a child.
In customary practice, the term child, of course, gets thrown around and used in different ways in different contexts. But in this context, Viviana appears to be using it to refer to a stage of development. And if that's how she intended to use it, then she's actually misapplying the term. Since a child, at least when the term is used in this context, is actually physically incapable of getting pregnant. A girl has to start puberty before she can get pregnant, which means the girl in question was actually adolescent at the time she got pregnant, and thus, she was no longer a child. Don't get me wrong, it's also possible Viviana's going off of some legal doctrine in regard to what's considered a child legally, or perhaps her own personal opinion in regard to what she thinks should be considered a child. Neither of which are empirical approaches demonstrating any value placed on scientific methodology.
I mean, that's a big age gap when you're that age.
What? Oh no, not an age difference.
And my problem when things like this happen, it's the same thing with Cuomo and Governor Cuomo with the crap he did, is like, just own up. You know what? It was wrong. It's unequivocally wrong.
Actually, that's just your personal opinion based on your own personal moral code that not everyone else subscribes to.
It's like, just own up. You know what? It was wrong. It's unequivocally wrong. I messed up. I was making poor choices at 18. It's really disgusting looking back on it. And I don't know how to move forward. I hope people can see that I've changed. And I reject what I did. I reject anybody doing such a thing. Don't talk about it fondly.
It sounds like he was in love with the girl, so I see no reason for him not to talk about it fondly.
Don't talk about it fondly. Well, we all,
Yeah, like
we rape 14-year-olds once in a while. Everybody rapes a 14-year-old.
Yeah, it's obviously
rape, John. It's rape.
Yeah.
What the fuck? This lady is ridiculous. Because there's an age gap, that means it's rape? How intellectually dishonest can you be?
It's
That's
obviously
rape, John. It's rape.
Yeah, obviously. It's statutory rape.
For those of you who might not know, they call it statutory rape when it's actually consensual sex between someone above the legal age of consent and someone below the legal age of consent. So it really quite literally is not actually rape. It's definitely consensual. But the law code and the resulting culture want to pretend it's rape because they have some culturally imposed hang-up over ages and age gaps.
And yeah, he married the girl when she was 15 and he was 19. The two were legally able to get married at the time because Florida law, I could just end at Florida, because Florida, basically. But Florida, because Florida law stated that people could marry at any age with a judge's approval if a pregnancy was involved and a parent consented. They got divorced approximately 3 years later. She tragically killed herself when she was 20, to which he said she had problems in another relationship. Her dad committed suicide. Anyway, he encouraged his supporters to share the video that he put up on Facebook Live, saying he wanted everyone to know, I don't want to hide anything, which is why I waited until the story was about to be published before coming out. That's the other thing. Like, there's the situation, there's the really weird description of it where it's Romeo and Juliet and you're some sort of tragic like victim of all of this. And then there's, and I deserve credit for honesty because I only came out with this because I was worried that if I didn't try to get out in front of it and it would look even worse. That's
every gaslighter's move. They always go for, I'm being honest after they're found out. How horrific to compare it to Romeo and Juliet when she actually killed herself. You are a piece of crap, garbage.
That is a weird.
Shove them in there. Sick.
Okay. Right
Sicko.
in there. I don't have a paper, but it's
I'm gonna back up a little bit. I don't qualify it as statutory rape. I don't qualify it, John. I say rape.
Sure, I just mean that's legally the designation, but you're
I
totally
get it.
right.
No, John, she's not totally right. If it was consensual, then it's not rape. Again, the reason it's legally statutory rape is because it's not actually rape. It's actually consensual. The law is just ageist. And you're both ageist as well because that's how you've been brainwashed to be. I'm not trying to insult you when I say that. This isn't a hate video. And I'm not interested in hurting anybody's feelings. But try to keep in mind, just because something is legal or illegal, that doesn't mean it should be or that there's a good reason for it to be that way. Sure, there's typically a reason of some sort, but that shouldn't be assumed to mean there's a good reason based on solid arguments. That said, I left a comment on the video, and we're going to see how people responded to it. The comment I left says, ageism isn't progressive, and it's dishonest to pretend that consensual sex is somehow rape just because of an age gap. To which Beth responded,
You commented only 6 seconds ago, yet this take is already rotten and nasty.
Okay, Beth, interesting opinion, lacking any substantive arguments or debunking of my points. Apparently you would prefer it if I pretended that ageism was progressive and that consensual sex somehow magically becomes a form of rape if there's some kind of age gap. Steve Coates says,
It damn well is when it involves a 14-year-old child.
It is what, Steve? Progressive? I think Steve is trying to say that ageism is progressive when it involves a 14-year-old child. Steve, if I perceived us to be talking about a grown man having sex with a literal child, I wouldn't have bothered leaving the comment or making this video. I made this video because an adolescent young woman is being treated like she's no different than a child because she's below the legal age of adulthood. It's not ageist to point out actual physiological differences between children and adolescents, but it is ageist to treat someone like a child just because they haven't reached the legal age of adulthood. Legal doctrines have no empirical weight, Steve. Again, girls who are developmentally children, or in other words prepubescent, are incapable of getting pregnant. So we're not talking about a 14-year-old child here, we're talking about a 14-year-old adolescent. And Vonna Hayworth says,
Here's that attention you ordered.
Okay. And Hannah Knoll says,
What kind of map shit is this? God, I hope the FBI searches your hard drives.
right, I'm sure that's really high on their priorities. All that time I spend on YouTube and Pornhub must be very suspicious. By the way, if there's anyone wondering what she means when she says MAP, that's an acronym for Minor Attracted Person or Minor Attracted People. It's pretty much just another way of referring to normal people. I say that because it is, of course, normal for people to every now and then find certain minors attractive. In part because adolescent minors are often indistinguishable from adults. You know, because the physical traits that we find attractive in adults are typically also present during adolescence. Because adolescents are damn near adults anyway. We're talking tits, ass, hips, legs, beautiful eyes, skin, or the way they wear their hair or clothes or do their makeup. Sometimes we just think they have a good-looking face or a nice body. This is not exclusive to adults, and everyone watching this video probably already knows it. The question is, are you honest enough to admit it? Don't get mad at me for being real with you and calling out what's obviously bullshit. Would you actually prefer it if I just faithfully went along with the cultural dishonesty without protest? What kind of a man would I be if I did that? You know what? I'll answer that for you. If I just faithfully went along with the cultural dishonesty without protest, I'd just be an ageist piece of shit no better than a racist, sexist, homophobe, or transphobe. Beebles3 asks,
How do you know it was consensual?
to which I responded, I don't. But based on what data is available, it sounds like it was an actual relationship involving consensual sexual relations, which then led to a consensual marriage. I don't get the impression the woman ever claimed it wasn't consensual, nor am I aware of any evidence that it wasn't consensual. And J. Charles F. Leframboise says,
And here's another pervert quoting the Trumpster's prayer. He didn't do that, he didn't say that, and if he did, he was only kidding. And if he wasn't, then you just don't understand. And if you do, it's not a big deal anyway. And if it is, it's for the best. And if it's not, I still don't care.
Okay. Not sure what relevance a Trumpster's prayer has to this conversation. If you're implying I'm a Trumpster or using the logic of this so-called Trumpster prayer, you're of course wrong on both accounts. I think of myself as a progressive. If anyone got the impression I did this video to defend a Republican senator, that's actually not what this is about. It's about ageism. I wouldn't actually vote for that Republican guy due to some of our differing political perspectives. And finally, we have a comment from Sam that says,
Are you genuinely saying a 12-year-old can marry a 30-year-old and it would be ageism if you said it was wrong? Children are not cognitively developed to consent, you horrible human being.
Children are not cognitively developed to consent? That's bullshit. Even babies are cognitively developed enough to either consensually suck on a baby bottle or push it away if they don't want any. So you're definitely either lying or regurgitating someone else's lie. And no, I'm not saying it's okay to fuck babies. I'm pretty sure that's deadly. That said, again, the specific girl we were discussing from the video had transcended childhood and moved on into adolescence. As for your hypothetical scenario involving a 12-year-old and a 30-year-old, it's none of your business if they want to get married. Why are you acting like I'm the bad guy when you want the law to dictate who other people can or can't consent to marrying? If a horny adolescent 12-year-old and a 30-year-old want to marry each other, that's their business. There's no need to impose a law telling them they can't get married. It's not like they can't break up and see other people if it doesn't work out. Well, anyway, in conclusion, none of these commenters had solid arguments against the content of my comment, and they provided no accurate, honest substance to back their personal attacks against me. I'm dropping truth bombs, and these ageists just don't want the truth. They want to live in a fantasy land where ageism is somehow progressive, and where consensual sex is a form of rape if there's an age gap. What a curious desire to have. I don't really see any logic in it or any empirical justification for it. And that's why it's clearly just the result of brainwashing.